Yeah, go ahead, Chad. Okay. Okay, new business, interim hospital CEO appointment.
You have the chair of the hospital board here, and he submitted this formal recommendation for the city council to go ahead and hire Mr. Emmett Schuster as the interim CEO for the Appleton Area Health.
Corey, would you mind just briefly describing the process you guys went through to get to this point for me?
Sure. So we, as you know, we hired B.E. Smith to not only do a recruitment of the permanent CEO, but also the interim CEO while we search for that permanent CEO. And the first part of this process was for them then to identify interim candidates for us to interview. They identified two individuals and were vetted through that process by their recruiters and by their head, Mick, who was our contact. So these candidates were brought to us with pretty high recommendation. In preparation for that, the interview process, we reached out to the leaders at the hospital, the senior leaders at the hospital, and asked them to grab people from each functional area of the hospital. So they provided us those names, and yesterday was the interview process for the interim. We had two candidates. We had about 20 members of the hospital there, which was fantastic. And they all had the opportunity to ask questions to the candidate. They were canned questions, obviously, that we had come up with. And so they had an opportunity to participate. And then at the end of each interview, we had asked them to score each candidate, 1 through 5 on each question as far as how they thought they answered that question. Once both interviews were done, we tallied up those scores, and so basically everyone had a voice in who they would like to see as the interim, so we included all of the scores. Ultimately, it could have been up to the hospital board to make the vote against what everyone else wanted in the room, but we chose to go with everyone that was in the room. And after 2 really great interviews, I thought both candidates were very strong. One was obviously a little more stronger, and that's why we have MS before you today to be considered for approval. It was a great process. It's a process that we will copy and do again for the permanent CEO, so we will ask those same individuals or other individuals that may want to be included in that process. That's kind of how the way I operate is I want a lot of input, so hopefully we can have that same turnout again for the permanent interviews. Hopefully have 20 or so people there. At the very least, the 5 senior leaders of the hospital there for sure. And so before me today is our request to approve Emmett Schuster as the interim CEO. We anticipate it'll be about 10 days at the most before he will be here. We have offered him housing within the Appleton or the Apple Ridge facility, and if he is acceptable to that, our staff is going to work to get that thing fully furnished for that individual to basically stay on campus. So with that, I just request that you consider Emmett Schuster as the interim. Any questions you got on the process or the candidate himself?
What was nice about B.B. Smith too, B.B. Smith is, if this candidate would work out and want to stay, he can actually stay on as a long-term, and they don't charge us, because the other companies wanted to charge us substantially. You'd have to pay them a whole year of his salary to keep him. Where these will only be, what was it, 1 point something steps, or?
That's a great point, Dan. So if this candidate, interim candidate, us and would want to stay, it's only 3 basis points more to hire him. So 30% is what it's gonna cost us to hire a permanent one. It'll cost us 33% if we hire an interim. And that's one, if not a major reason why I went with BB Smith versus other companies.
And in terms of the process, my office can provide assurance that the process was objective. The questions that were submitted to both candidates were right from their background. I did a resume analysis. 3 of the questions submitted to each candidate were specific to their background, and the different members of the panel that served on the interview community, which was 26 people in total, got to give these questions. And these were not easy questions. These were highly analytical, tough questions that you would ask somebody like me. And they did very well, both of them.
And Mayor, if I can just add to a public thank you to City Administrator Willie and Emma. They did a lot of, if not all of the legwork on this. They hosted it down here just because of the sheer size of the number of people we're gonna have, plus the education room was being used for COVID vaccines yesterday. So we couldn't have gotten through this without the cooperation of the city and the hospital working together. And I look forward to that continuing.
Thank you, Corey. Anybody got any other questions?
No, just thank you and the hospital. Go ahead. Go ahead, Chad.
Chad, if you can hear me, the entire complex. Correct.
There was a concern.
Somebody raised a question about that, and they will have their license updated.
Yeah, updated to Minnesota.
Oh, I'm sure that's what it was. He's in Washington or wherever he was, or, yeah.
Yeah.
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately. We gotta, Chad, we gotta get the contract signed and in place, so hopefully within 10 days of the contract actual signing, we'll hope to have him in place.
And just to the board.
Yeah, so the board is the acting CEO with Jake, running the day-to-day operations up there for us.
And just to give the residents who maybe did not have a chance to know as much about this candidate, the individual that's being selected in 1 year of interim service at Gibson General Hospital in Indiana was able to turn around and create a swing bed program. This is a program that generally takes around 2 to 3 years to really launch successfully. He was able to do it in 9.5 months. So as a metric of performance, it's a very impressive group of people who were interviewed.
Any other questions?
Thanks for all the parties involved. Sounds like a very professional process where all these people were brought in. I just want to thank you for that transparency, and that's great.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the recommendation of the hospital board hiring Emmett Schluster as interim hospital CEO.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to hire Emmett Schuster as the interim CEO. Will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chad said aye too.
Oh, okay. Appliance cleanup program.
Councilmember Borstead had presented to me the idea of wanting to reduce the fee to get rid of appliances from $10 to $5. And so I took a look at this, the city clerk and I. Last year, disposal of equipment that was taken to the brush site was about $3,600. And as you see, we have a net loss of $1,500. So based on that, I would say not to change that fee. Another of the proposals that Mr. Borsted had suggested was that the city go, to try to get this stuff moving, have the city's guys go and pick up these appliances. I can't recommend that. The insurance liabilities alone can be an issue for us. And then we also have a skeleton crew of 3 people that would take us kind of, you know, I think the system that's in place now works just fine. You wanna lower the price, that's okay, but we don't have any proof that the price of $10 is a disincentive to get rid of your appliances.
I'd just like to hear, from Councilmember Borsted what his thinking is behind this and the reason for bringing it before the council.
I've had a few people ask me why Appleton.
Hey Chad, you got some audio coming through, if you can hear me.
I've had some people ask me why the city of Appleton doesn't have a citywide cleanup day like Dawson, Montevideo, Benson. Their street department, their city department, they have a day that they go out to people get their white goods out onto the boulevard, and they come along and pick them up for the residents, and it gets a lot of the stuff out of the yards. There's some people that cannot physically do it. Then you're always looking for someone to help. So they asked if I would bring this up.
Okay.
And I thought by taking it down to $5 a piece, that the incentive would be there, that people would want to get rid of as much as washing machines, dryers, stoves, water heaters, dehumidifiers, dishwashers, you know, stuff like that. No electronics.
Right.
Absolutely no electronics. And that we could give them 1 day, 1 week, 1 day, a week or 2 weeks later, and in 2 days, that's what we would have in it for labor. So that was what I had brought up.
I'd be 100% behind it once we get a full staff. I mean, right now, beings are short-handed. I'd wait till we start interviewing and get some people on hand.
With the street department's contract with the city through the union, is that outside of their scope?
It would be outside of the specific scope, but management does have the right to add additional tasks, so long as the tasks do not require licensure or permits of some sort.
Okay.
So this would fall within the scope that we can assign to them, but it's really, for me, more about the bodies. We just don't have enough people right now.
Sure.
And I would think if we do this, if it's on the curb, a lot of this could be loaded with the skid loader, so they wouldn't have to load it by hand. They could take a gravel truck, use the skid loader, throw it in the back of the truck and dump it, so there wouldn't be a lot of manual loading, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think so either.
So, and I had one other question pertaining to that. I know in the past, there has been like a volunteer effort to go around paint curbs and that kind of thing. I think your son Mike probably had a lot to do with organizing that.
Yes,
Being we are so shorthanded on the street department, would that be in terms of liability and stuff if we had volunteers?
We'll put together a waiver form, and we'll have city attorney look at it. But volunteerism is highly encouraged, and we thank you in advance because we need the help.
Right, because that might be a workaround because I don't want to task the street department with more things when they really don't have the manpower to do their primary mission.
I think we
at
should
the
put
moment,
something
so.
in the- Just put something in the paper and have a Saturday in May or something where, I mean, I could bring my gravel truck in and I could get my guys and skid loaders, and if we sign the waiver for them, we should be able to run around and pick them up, haul them to the dump or not.
Could we contact a metal recycler to see if they'd be willing to do some of these pickups? Is that another possibility?
The metal recyclers are part of the process at the end when everything's over there at the brush site. Then we call them and they haul everything out.
Sure.
But like, do you want me to try to see if they wanna throw in a freebie?
Like a free pickup, house-to-house pickup, is that what we're talking about? When you
I
say
think that's what
freebie?
you're talking
That's what
about.
I'm talking about, yes.
I can ask, but don't get upset if we don't get any responses.
Right, I think right now, this is not my area of expertise, but I don't believe that scrap metal is really worth much right now. So it might be a tough sell, but never hurts to ask. But I think we should also really consider asking, the community to chip in and help in terms of volunteerism. I think we've, got a lot of people that, in this community that would be willing to help, myself included. And I think that might be a good option as well to really look into. In my opinion of the $5 difference in cost, I don't believe is really, I don't think that's a deterrent, personally. Now, I haven't heard anybody, nobody's come to me and said, I can't afford $10, but I could afford $5. I think the big thing is making it convenient for them, you know, and especially as we're kind of looking at trying to clean up the city, I think it would be good to do something to kind of help the residents with
Well, I
this.
say we have a day of cleanup like we plan on here, and get volunteers, leave it at 10, do a runner. If it doesn't work, we can always address the dollar amount later. I mean, we meet every month, so.
What
Yeah.
if, I know we have some interviews coming, next week. Hopefully we'll have a larger department. What if in May we take this up again? Do you guys think that?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, because this, I believe this is gonna be a, you know, best done during the summer months.
What is summer? Like, it keeps getting
I think
cold
of
and
summer
rainy
as,
here.
I think of summer as starting June 1st. That's what, I
Okay.
mean, in my, that's my thought. But, you know, you want to have when it's not like it has been the last couple of days, you know, in terms of the weather.
'Cause
Trying to
I-
incentivize people to get, and the other issue, like I believe Mr. Borstead said, is, you know, a lot of residents do not have the ability to get these things, say it's in their basement.
Right.
So we need to think about that too, if we, you know, in terms of this liability waiver, the ability to actually help get the things up the stairs or out to the curb, you know?
Here's another thing that I'd like to propose. I'm gonna communicate with the county about renting a big garbage disposal for a period of time where people can just come and throw stuff to. It will cost money, it won't be free,
Right,
but I think if the goal is here to encourage any type of disposal of excess debris,
right.
then that might go a really long way too.
I think, Tim, piggybacking off, you know, if it's in the basement and it takes, I hope that's where the private individuals come in and help their neighbors out.
Yes,
I can see where you get liability problems, you got city crew go up and downstairs with that heavy stuff.
Exactly.
That's where I see the public helping out a lot too,
right,
or
yep.
that's where I'd like to see them help
Yep,
out.
and I think we should give the public an opportunity to help. And I think, you know, I've got faith that we will get support from our community to help each other out like that, so.
Should we just table it and bring it up at the next meeting then, when we,
Sure.
Hopefully we-
Works
Yeah.
for me. I just wanted to bring it up so that it got out here and, we could discuss it because, like I say, you know, we wanna clean the town up and we should give an incentive and help them out, you know, it's everybody's town.
Yes, yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that, this issue before the council and letting us talk about it and think about it. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Well, we weren't gonna pass it today.
so what do we want to do? Can we just table it, or do we need to?
You table it to the May meeting, or to the next meeting on the 21st. That's our regular meeting, April
Would-
21st.
Does it take
Would
a
that-
motion? We don't need a motion to table anything.
Well, yeah, you can motion it if you'd like.
If we table it until the next regular meeting, does that give you enough time to do, some of the legwork of looking into this?
I might not be able to promise an entire report, but I'll do the legwork and see what I come up with.
Okay.
Because I
Well,
think.
we can always table it again if
Yep.
need be.
So what I'm hearing from all of you is that it needs to be in the public's mind and you want to bring attention and awareness to it. The best way to do it is to bring it at every meeting until something happens. Would you
I agree.
agree?
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
I
maybe we
agree.
can put something in the press too, that we're just talking about it, maybe somebody will give us some feedback.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody has some ideas that we haven't thought of, so.
Yes, please.
Okay, so moving on to junior wastewater operator role.
I might back you up quick. Do we probably need to entertain a motion to table first?
Yep, it's right there.
Okay.
So, what is the date, the 21st?
The
Is that,
21st of April.
okay.
Motion to table until April 21st, 2021, meeting of the city council.
Motion has been made to table it to the April meeting.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Will there be any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I always forget about it. Sorry about forgetting about you, Chad. Junior wastewater operator role.
So the city of Appleton, in terms of infrastructure, has not grown evenly. Our arms are longer than our legs, if you will. So our water, our collection system, our wastewater facility, they require licensures and specific expertise. Whereas on the street part, on the street patching and all of the other components, those do not all require as much licensure as maintaining those two facilities. So I'm proposing the creation of a role that deals just with that. Just with that. And then we will have a better handle on things like lift station calls in the middle of the night, routes in our water mains and sewer lines, issues at the wastewater plant, issues at the water plant, which right now we are not able to do successfully. And by the way, some of those responsibilities require licensure and are not part of the union's responsibilities in their agreement.
I agree, that's a very specialized role we're asking somebody to do that takes a lot of specialized expertise. And that's why I believe this role would be good for the city of Appleton.
So how does that work then? Jim and the other gentleman that we hired part-time would oversee this and help with that, or how does that?
They will provide ancillary help, lending their fully licensed capacity to keep training these individuals to get the level of licensures that they need. When I say that our arms are longer than our legs, it's actually the truth. For a city our size, to have a level A waste facility is not typical. Typical cities our size have a retaining pond system, not a mechanical plant as we have. You know, and then if you compare that to our water operating facility, that's a level C facility. That's appropriate for our size of community. But then we have industries that also drive the need for these different types of systems. So we have got to be accommodating to our local industry as well. And we need somebody with expertise that can really deliver and not slow things down, but move them fast in compliance with Minnesota pollution control.
Sure.
Yeah.
So with this new role, I mean, you had mentioned like call-outs and nights and weekends and stuff. Would that person in that role be responsible for like all of those calls or?
For the majority of them, and the assigning of when the wastewater technician, which is an existing role, when that role will go to those different alarms. We recently had turnover in that department, and one of the feedbacks in the exit survey that we get whenever an employee leaves, the feedback was that they were not being compensated for the level of calls that they were going out to.
Sure.
So we have to balance work. We can't always send one employee to always be responding, because then you have them on call 24 hours a day. And that's not what their union agreement is, how it's structured.
Sure.
So this will divvy up that responsibility and provide training of the wastewater technician
So when you say divvy up the responsibility, then,
for the alarms.
so it would be divvied up amongst whom?
The Public Works Director, the junior wastewater operator, and the wastewater technician.
Okay, yep,
So now you have 3 people who have expertise to handle the wastewater collection system and water systems. And then the other individuals specifically for the streets.
sure. Just wanted to make sure it was all
Yeah.
well understood, not only for myself, but for anybody that might be listening in.
So we aspire to have, and we're interviewing, a Public Works Director, a junior water operator. We currently have a wastewater technician, and then streets laborers. The wastewater technician will report to the junior operator, and the junior operator will report, along with everybody else, to the Public Works Director.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the creation of the junior wastewater operation role.
Motion's been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded, will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We forgot to wait, Chad, did you want to be with it or against it? But, yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lag between here and there, so sorry about that. Okay, purchases over the purchase policy threshold.
So you'll see $203,973.98. Of that, $156,788 are Magny Construction with respects to the water treatment construction, and Apex Engineering, $18,968.94. Within your packet, you'll see the reimbursement paperwork. We get reimbursed from PFA for that amount. Then we have Roderberg and Berryman, $15,010. That also gets reimbursed to a MnDOT grant that we got. The wastewater VFDs, this was an emergency VFD separate from the pumps that you guys approved at the last meeting. This was the lowest bid. That's all part of the information that's online. And then the office server, currently, I'm sitting here very nervous. We have a computer, a workstation that's functioning as a server. Think about that. We have a computer that somebody working on is functioning as a server. If that server goes down, kaputs. So, and it started to do some funny things that made us all very scared when the city clerk was gone. It started to flash red on our shared drives.
Ooh.
So I made an emergency procurement for it. And they're going to be delivering that within 2 weeks. And I'm hoping that it lasts until those 2 weeks. We do have backup on a cloud service system, but there would ultimately be some data loss if something were to happen.
Sure, yeah.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the payment of $203,973.98 for purchases of goods and services above the purchase policy threshold.
Motion has been made, do we have a second?
This is Heineke, a second.
Will there be any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Old business. Oh, transaction summary of the month, missed that one, huh?
So this is a very long document. You guys are very familiar with it, but I'll give you the highlights. So accounts payable transactions, there were about 284 invoices totaling $611,000 in the month of March. And then our deposits were about $600,000. Some of these flows of cash have to do with our payments for things like the construction project, which we get reimbursed for. But the fund balance is what I want you to pay attention to. The unrestricted general fund balance is $2.3 million, and the restricted fund balance is $995,000. So a total of $3.3 million is our operating budget right now. The state auditor recommends we have an unrestricted amount of at least 45% of the budget, and we're meeting that with flying colors. Something that's not on here, which you guys received, are your check runs. And you'll see from that report that we provide to you that we're entering April. That's month 4 of the calendar year, or 33% of the calendar year, and we have only expended 26% of the budget. So in terms of budget tracking and oversight, we're doing very well. And for the first time in the history of Appleton since I've been here, every single fund, enterprise fund, is positive. There is not one enterprise fund that is underperforming, not one. So congratulations.
Good deal.
It's good news.
All right, old business.
Sometimes I just think you're calling me old.
Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, guys.